All right, guys, here we are. So we're practicing going from creating equations from graphs, okay? So these first ones we're dealing with our linear, right? So that'll be questions 1 through about 24 are all going to be linear. Then we'll switch it over to exponential, okay? So your teacher may be doing this one if this is in class differently, but basically I would suggest doing a few types of problems, then watching this to see how it's going, and kind of just jump back and forth to watching and working and then and that kind of stuff. So I would suggest they should know how to do this. So these first 6 problems, I would probably give them, a couple minutes. They shouldn't need too many. Okay. Remember with linear, we're doing the slope-intercept form. Okay, so we need the slope, m, we need the y-intercept, b, and then you create the equation. So you can pause now if you want to, or you can let them work through quite a few to begin with, and then pause. We'll pause, then let them work through, then kind of see, okay? So I'll just kind of go in my own way, pause it when you need to, get them to work when you need to. Okay, so number 1, slope is -1/5, y-intercept -4, so I go y equals -1/5 x minus 4. Now, you could put a plus -4, same thing. You could rewrite it as -4 minus 1/5 x, okay? Either one of those works, okay? But I'm going to do it in that slope-intercept form because that's kind of what we expect when we're graphing. All right, number 2, slope of -1. So I go y equals -1x, y-intercept of +4, so +4. Again, sometimes we don't see that 1 there, and we just go -x plus 4. That's the same thing. Number 3, slope of 4/5, y-intercept of 1, y equals 4/5 x plus 1. Number 4, we would go y equals 5/3 x minus 2, because our y-intercept is -2. All right, and those were the simple ones just to kind of get us going, okay? On the graphing, then, we need the slope and we need the y-intercept. Once we have those, we're good to go. But first, let's take a look at 5 and 6. So 5 and 6 are when we're given the standard form and we're writing it into the slope-intercept form, okay? Basically, all we do is we get rid of the 2x on the left side by subtracting, because it's a positive 2x. So I get -y equals -2x plus 7, or 7 minus 2x, same thing. Divide by -1, because I can't have that -1 there, right? It's like it's -1. So we end up with y equals +2x minus 7. For number 4, kind of the same route. We first start by subtracting 4x, giving us 5y equals -15 minus 4x. Divide everything by 5. We get y equals -15 divided by 5 is -3. -4 divided by 5 is -4/5 x. Because it's the slope, we leave it that way. Now, if we really wanted to, we could then rearrange it to be y equals -4/5 x minus 3. Okay? All right, so if you haven't paused yet for a while, I would suggest maybe pausing, let them do a few of these graphs, and then we can kind of jump back and see where they're at. So pause that now if you want to. If not, let's just keep on trucking. So remember, what we got to do is find those nicer points, right? Okay, looking where we see those intersections. You need at least 2 of them. You don't need more than that, though. Then we look for our slope, which we'll call m. We see that that's not our slope, that's our y-intercept, which we'll call b. I guess I'm starting with that, which is -3. Then to get my slope, we go from left to right, so one of the left points to a right point, and we count 1, 2, 3, 4. We had to go up 4 to the right 1. So a slope of 4/1, which we can reduce to 4, because 4 divided by 1 is just 4. Then I write my equation, y equals 4x minus 3. Okay, number 8, we can see a bunch of these points, can't we? There's my y-intercept of 2, and then I just pick 2 points. I'm going down, so that's -1. To the right, that's 1. So a slope of -1/1, which I want to reduce to just -1. So I go y equals -1x plus 2. Okay, number 9. Looking at these points, this one's kind of tougher. It looks like we've got our y-intercept at -5. And our other point is right here. So our slope would be going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So slope of 7/5, because the vertical is always on top. Y-intercept at -5. Y equals 7/5 x minus 5. For number 10, y-intercept there at -1. Okay, so that's my B. My slope, looks like I got a point here, or here, or here. Pick 2 of them, count up, 1, 2, 3. To the right, 1, 2. So slope of 3/2. So I go y equals 3/2 x minus 1. Again, I could put plus and -1, but minus just seems so much easier. All right, down here at the bottom, let's scoot it up a bit though so we can see better. So we've got that point right there, our y-intercept at 2. And then our slope looks like our next point would be right there. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5. To the right, 3. So a slope of -5/3, y-intercept of 2. Y equals -5/3 times x plus 2. Finally, number 12, at vertical. Remember, when we're dealing with a vertical line, okay, its slope is undefined, so it has no slope, basically. No y-intercept either, because it's just our x-intercept here at -1, and basically it's just x equals -1. It's just that vertical line at -1. Anytime we have a vertical line, you can have x equals and then whatever number it is. Okay, so now we got quite a few more. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 more on this page. Again, if you need some time to pause so students can work before we see what they're doing, now would be the time to do that, so that you don't use up all your time just by watching this, and so they have a chance to try it first. Okay. Now, as you're going, when I work it out, if a student needs to see it longer, make sure to allow them that time that they need to check their work, so that they can keep up. All right. Anyway, pause it now if you need to. If not, here we go. So we're going to look at these points here. Here looks like a point along each line. So y-intercept of -3. I'm going down 1 to the right 1. So down 1's -1, to the right 1's 1. So I get my slope of -1/1, or just -1. Now, if I really wanted to, I could go up and to the left, and that would be a +1, and that would be a -1. But I always prefer to go left to right. I think it's just easier to remember. So y equals -1x minus 3. Okay, number 14, y-intercept of 4. Okay, and then it looks like a point here, so we're going up 4 to the right 1. So slope of 4/1, y-intercept of b, y equals 4x plus 4. Okay, number 15, got a point right here, point right there. Slope, we're going down 3 to the right 2. Slope of -3/2. And then a y-intercept of +3. So y equals -3/2 x plus 3. Okay. Number 16, we've got points going down each one. So we're down 1 to the right 1. Starting up here at +5. So y equals -1x plus 5. Okay. 17, we got another vertical line, so I know it's going to be x equals, in this case, -4. So I just put a -4 there. Okay. And that was number 17. Okay. So let's look at number 18 now. Y-intercept of -4, and we're going up 2 to the right 1. So 2/1, or just 2. So a slope of 2, y-intercept of -4. I go y equals 2x minus 4. So you guys have had plenty of problems here to kind of see what's going on. So you should be able to be doing pretty good at this stuff. Okay? So if you needed some time to pause and work, then do that. If not, we'll keep on going. Okay, so 19, y-intercept at -1. 2 points, we go down 4, to the right 1, slope at -4/1, which is just -4. So y equals -4x minus 1. 20, we've got our y-intercept here at 2. And point right there, so down 1, to the right 4. So slope at -1/4. So y equals -1/4 x plus 2. Okay, for 21, now we've got a horizontal line. Horizontal lines actually do have a slope, okay? Because I can move horizontally, so 0, not 0 for on the top, okay? Because I'm not moving vertically, but I could move to the bottom. 0/1 is 0, so I have a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of +1. So if I go y equals 0x plus 1, 0 times x is just 0. 0 plus 1 is just 1. So whenever I have a horizontal line, it's just y equals whatever that y value is it's on. Okay. 22, got a y-intercept of 0. And we're going up 1 and to the right 1. So a slope of 1/1, which is just 1. Y-intercept of 0, so y equals 1x plus 0, which we could just put y equals x, because we could drop the 1 and we could drop the 0, both because of the multiplicative and additive identity properties of 1 and 0. All right, so the last one, 23 and 24, you probably want to get a pause here after we get these ones done. Hopefully you took them that far, because then we're going to be shifting gears, so it'd be good to kind of stop at this point. So y-intercept to -3, down 1, to the right 3. So -3 for our b, m is -1/3, so y equals mx plus b, which in this case was -1/3 x minus 3. And the last linear, y-intercept of 1, point right here, going to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 1. So slope of 1/5, y-intercept of 1, we get y equals 1/5 x plus 1. All right, so there's all our linear ones. So make sure that you understand to use that proper slope-intercept form as you make those, which looks a bit different than our exponential, okay? And I probably could change these letters to match it up that way. That would be better. So now instead of our y-intercept being last, like linear, now it's first for exponential. Okay? And then our growth is still with the x, but in this case it's second for exponential and raised to the power. Okay? All right, so you should try these out first, because we've definitely already had some lessons on this. So work through these as best you can. I would suggest giving students probably time maybe to do the first 4. Okay, give them some time for that, and then play those first 4, and then kind of move forward in that manner. Okay, so I would suggest pausing it now, and let's get moving. If we already paused it, then here we go. So with exponential, right, we said it was y equals a times b to the x. Okay, sometimes there's a plus k here, which I think we have a few problems like that. We'll try them out. Okay, but I need my y-intercept again, so that's what I look for first, which this is 5. So my a is 5. Now my b is going to be the growth factor. What am I multiplying by? To do that, pick out the points you can, which looks like we've got 2.5, 5, 10, and 20. So as I travel up, 2.5 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, we're definitely times them by 2. So I get y equals 5 times 2 to the x. If we look at 26, we've got we've got 4 for our y-intercept, which is a. This is why I don't necessarily like using those same letters for slope-intercept form. So let's see, what would we say that was? A is 4. Now we're going down, so we're going to be dividing, aren't we? So I see I've got 16, 8, 4, 2, looking at my y values, and 1. So as I go down, we're definitely dividing by 2. Okay, so my factor is dividing by 2. However, we don't like dividing by 2, so we're going to change that to timesing by a half, which actually does the same thing. So I get y equals 4 times 1/2 to the x. And I generally put the 1/2 in parentheses. Okay, 27. Let's keep going with red. Y-intercept of 2. And our growth factor, 2 to 6 to 18. So 2 to 6 to 18 looks like we're timesing by 3. So y equals 2 times 3 to the x. For 28, again, we've got the 3 here, and it looks like 6 here, 12 here, and then we're out of space. Okay, so y-intercept of 3, and my growth, 12 to 6 to 3, we're dividing by 2, also known as timesing by a half. So I get y equals 3 times 1/2 to the x power. Okay, so hopefully you did pretty well on those. If not, you've got another chance. Now I would suggest giving them time to work on 29, 30. And you can try these last 4 too. They're going to be more difficult because now we're shifting. But we can at least get 29 and 30. Maybe what I would do is give them a little time to do 29 and 30 as well. And then we can look at those, then give them time to try out the last 4. But those are harder, so if they need to kind of see an example or two, maybe that would be a good idea to remind them. So I'll do 29, 30, 31, and 32. Then you can pause, and then we can try out 33 and 34, okay? All right. So 29, y-intercept of 2. Remember, our formula looks like this. Then that growth factor looks like we have 18, 6, and 2. So as we go down, we are dividing by 3, which is also called timesing by a third. So I go y equals 2 times 1/3 to the x. Okay, for 30, we've got a 2 here. We've got a 4 here, 8, and 16. We also have a 1. Y-intercept of 2. But our growth this time is 2, 4, 8, 16 times them by 2. So y equals 2 times 2 to the x. Now, for looking at these last 4, okay, now we got some shifts happening. So as I look at this shift, remember we've got to treat it differently. Now my equation is y equals a times b to the x plus k. And what's going to happen is that a times b to the x is going to be the same, but all the numbers are going to be shifted up or down based on what plus k is. So in 31, we're subtracting 2, which means I'm going to have a subtract 2 right there, but it's going to affect my numbers. So what I want to do is I want to find those points. So this is 0, it's 4, and 16. I think, yeah, 16. Okay, so those, it may look like we're timesing by 4 or dividing by 4, but 4 divided by 4 is not 0. So I've got to remember, since I shifted it down, I actually need to shift these each up by 2, because I shifted down by 2, which would then give me 18, 6, and 2. So my y-intercept is that 2. So that's a equals 2. And b and k was -2. Okay, I can erase that right there. So as we go 18, 6, 2, we're definitely dividing by 3, which we call timesing by a third, right? So that's my b. So then I go y equals a times b to the x plus k. So 2 times 1/3 of the x minus 2. And that minus 2 is what tells me that this happened. Now, on the flip side, we look at number 32. And this one now is going up 2. So our asymptote got shifted up 2. So everything got shifted up 2. So we find our points. So that looks like a 4. This one, sometimes it's hard to tell, but I think it's going to be an 18. And I'm guessing this might be a 4th. So my y-intercept there. Now, because everything shifted up 2, to get my true numbers, I'm going to subtract everything by 2. Okay. Oh, this would have actually been 2 1/4. So that makes that a 4th. This 2. And this 16. So my A is 1/4. My B is, and my K is plus 2. So my B would be 1/4 to 2. 2 to 16 would be timesing by 8. So my B is timesing by 8. So our equation, y equals 1/4 times 8 to the x plus 2. So those guys are pretty tough. Okay, now give them a few. I mean, if you needed to finish copying that down, make sure you pause that. But give them some time to try 33 and 34 on their own. And if you can't get it, that's all right, because these ones are super crazy. So let's pause it right now, and then we'll do it. Okay, so we're shifting down here by 2. So my k is -2. It looks like we've got 3 here, 8 here, and maybe 18. So we need to bump everything up by 2. So I get 20, 10, and 5. So my y-intercept is 5. And my growth, 5, 10, 20, we are timesing by 2. So y equals 5 times 2 to the x minus 2. And the last one, we're shifting down 1. So my k is -1. Okay. So here was 2, 5, 11, and that's all we see. So now I'm going to bump everything up by 1. So my y-intercept was 3. And I go 3, 6, 12. So I'm timesing, or I guess dividing by 2 because I'm going down, aren't I? Also known as timesing by 1/2. So we get y equals 3 times 1/2 to the x minus 1. Okay? So there you guys go. You should have gone through all this. Hopefully you were able to get through it all in the class period. If not, you can look at it at home. Okay? All right, guys, there we go.